The smell of bacon grease and burnt toast had been hanging in the air for decades inside Ellie's diner, the kind of place where the stools were cracked red vinyl and the waitress already knew your order before you sat down. It was the kind of spot that felt frozen in time, small town chatter bouncing off chrome counters, people trading weather complaints and gossip about whose kid made the honor roll. And for 3 weeks in a row at the same stool every Tuesday morning, a quiet man sat alone with nothing but black coffee and the local paper. He didn't talk much, didn't smile much either, but the way he sat back straight, eyes sharp, without being obvious, made some folks think of old photographs of their fathers in uniform. He paid with Maridon, tipped exactly 20%, and left with a polite thank you, ma'am. Nobody knew much about him, but to Ellie the waitress, he was just another regular. That morning, though, the peace shattered the moment Officer Jake Tanner walked in. 8 years on the force had given him a certain swagger, the kind that made conversations dip just a little when he entered a room. He wasn't feared exactly, but people watched him carefully the way you'd watch a dog that bites sometimes. Jake spotted the quiet man at stool number 7 and a smirk curled across his face. He strolled over, hand resting on his belt like a gunslinger, and said loud enough for the whole diner to hear, "You got some ID, soldier boy?" The man didn't flinch. He folded his newspaper neatly, set it down, and looked up at Jake with eyes that had seen too much to be rattled by a small-town cop. "Good morning, officer," he said calmly, voice low and steady. "Is there a problem?" Jake leaned in, drumming his fingers against his radio. "That depends. You've been coming around here every week like you own the place. Folks here like to know who they're dealing with. So what's your business in our town?" The diner went quiet. Old Mr. Parsons froze mid-crossword. Mrs. Alvarez's fork hovered halfway to her mouth. Even the teenage paperboy sat up straighter. The man reached into his wallet, movements deliberate, almost military in precision. He handed over a license. "Name's Marcus Hale," he said simply. "I like the coffee." Jake squinted at the ID, reading the name aloud like he wanted it to stick in everyone's memory. Marcus Hale, P.O. Box out in Ridgefield. That's quite a drive for coffee, don't you think? "I like the atmosphere," Marcus replied evenly. "Peaceful community, friendly people." Jake's smirk widened. "Well, Mr. Hale, let me spell something out for you. Around here, we don't take kindly to strangers poking around. You want coffee, fine, but you make folks uncomfortable, and I'll make sure you find another diner." Marcus didn't rise to it. He just slid a 20 on the counter, stood with quiet authority, and looked Jake straight in the eye. "Officer Tanner," he said, and somehow just using his name made the air shift. "I've faced down men with far more power than you. Terrorists, cartels, foreign governments. I've been shot at, hunted, threatened, and I'm still here. What I've never done is let bullies hide behind a uniform to intimidate innocent people. So no, I won't be finding another diner. I'll drink my coffee here whenever I please." The words hung heavy in the air. Jake's face flushed red, and for the first time he looked like he didn't know what to do. Marcus nodded politely to Ellie, tipped his head to the room, and walked out. Through the window, folks noticed something they hadn't before: a dark sedan with government plates waiting across the street. By the time Jake got back to his patrol car, Marcus was 40 miles away at Falcon Ridge Base, walking through a security checkpoint where soldiers snapped to attention. "Good morning, Colonel," a sergeant said crisply. Because Marcus Hale wasn't just some quiet stranger, he was the commanding officer of one of the most critical defense installations in the country, responsible for 2,400 personnel and the systems that kept half the coast safe. Back in town, though, gossip spread like wildfire. Ellie couldn't get Marcus's words out of her head. That calm certainty, the way he talked about facing down terrorists like it was a grocery list. Curiosity got the better of her, and that night she searched his name online. What she found was sparse press releases, official photos, mentions in military journals, but enough to paint a picture. Colonel Marcus Hale, a man with ribbons on his chest, ceremonies with Pentagon brass, and she realized Jake Tanner had just tried to humiliate someone who could shut their whole town down with a phone call. But Jake wasn't done. He'd made a career out of intimidating people who couldn't fight back: immigrants, Kids walking home from practice. Anyone he thought didn't belong. He liked the power the way fear gave him control. And for 8 years, nobody stopped him. Complaints disappeared, dash cam footage malfunctioned. His chief covered for him. So when Marcus didn't disappear, when he came back the next Tuesday, like nothing had happened, Jake got bolder. He cornered him in the library parking lot one evening. Funny thing Jake said, circling Marcus like a shark. You've been asking a lot of questions about city council police budgets, local politics. Makes me wonder what you're really up to. Drugs, money laundering. Maybe you're scouting for trouble. Marcus didn't blink. He pulled out his phone camera up. Officer Tanner, this is Colonel Marcus Hale, badge number 2217. At 7:45 p.m., you've just accused me of drug trafficking without probable cause. This encounter is being recorded. Jake froze. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Turn that off, he barked. No. The word landed like a hammer. Jake's hand twitched toward his belt. Marcus didn't move. If you try to detain or arrest me without cause, you'll trigger federal intervention you can't begin to imagine. Choose wisely. Something in Marcus's tone, steady matter of fact, made Jake pause just for a second before storming off. But that recording went straight into a federal database that night, attached to an ever-growing file of Jake's misconduct. 2 days later, Jake crossed the line completely. Marcus was having dinner downtown when Jake barged in with another officer, voice loud enough for the whole restaurant. Mr. Hale, he sneered, I need you to step outside. We've been looking into you, and guess what? No record of you working for the Department of Defense. Looks like you've been lying. Marcus stood, slowly pulled out a leather case and opened it for everyone to see. Colonel Marcus Hale, United States Army. Commanding Officer Falcon Ridge Defense Installation. Federal Clearance Level 7. He let it sink in, then added, if you try to interfere with me again, you won't just lose your badge, you'll face federal charges. The restaurant went dead silent. Jake's jaw tightened, but Officer Donovan beside him tugged his sleeve. Evan, she whispered, we should go. By morning, the whole town knew. And by that afternoon, the FBI had enough to act. The next week at dawn, federal agents knocked on Jake Tanner's door. Tactical vests, SUVs, blocking the street neighbors peeking through blinds as Jake's so-called untouchable career crumbled in front of them. Meanwhile, Ellie poured coffee at stool number 7, watching Marcus sip quietly like always. He didn't gloat, didn't brag. He simply lived the truth he'd spoken. Authority isn't about intimidation, it's about service. And the town learned the hard way that real power doesn't come from a badge or a gun, but from the kind of respect you earn when you stand tall against bullies. So let me leave you with this. What do you think, was Officer Jake just one bad cop in a broken system? Or was the whole town complicit for letting him run unchecked? Have you ever seen someone in authority abuse their power? And did anyone stand up? Share your thoughts below, because stories like this only matter if they spark the conversations that change us. And if you believe in shining light on truths like these, hit subscribe, because there are more stories that need to be told.